All right, it's superlatives time. Mike Golic, you're up.
Well, I'm going to say, hey, when you get your chance, what do you make of it? And that's Tyler Huntley from Baltimore. You know, they beat the Bears 16-13. Huntley gets a text from Lamar Jackson basically saying, hey, do your thing, because Lamar was sick again, not COVID, and wasn't going to play in this game. Now, the stats weren't out of his mind. Obviously, no touchdowns, 1 interception, 26-36 for 219. Did have 7 runs for 40 yards. But what kind of play do you come up with when you need it at the end? They needed a big play at the end. He rolls right, makes a nice deep pass down the middle. Devonta Freeman ends up running that one into the end zone for the game winner for them. So here's a guy who, as I said, the stats weren't unbelievably great, but they were enough. He was efficient enough. And when he needed the biggest play the most, when the team needed the biggest play the most, he ended up pulling it out for that team. So great job getting your chance and being able to do something with it and getting a win for your team and hanging on to that top spot. They're one of the few division leaders that actually won a game yesterday.
Huntley told me after the game that Sammy Watkins was the third read on that throw that set up the go-ahead touchdown, the game-winning touchdown. And he also said, because after he explained how he got the word directly from Lamar that Huntley would be starting on Sunday in place of Lamar Jackson, who's now had 3 different illnesses, non-COVID illnesses during the regular season, I said, what did you think the percentage chance was when you went to bed Saturday night that you would start? And he said, I just assumed it was me. I prepared as if it was me. And if I hadn't prepared as if it was me all day Saturday, it would have been a different outcome on Sunday. And speaking of preparation, with those 3 different non-COVID illnesses during the regular season, there was a back injury for Lamar Jackson that knocked him out of a couple of practices. He was on the COVID list in training camp. All those extra reps for Tyler Huntley made the difference. He's had the opportunities because Lamar Jackson has been out for so many practices. It helped the preparation of Tyler Huntley, and it'll help if he has to play for Lamar Jackson again coming up. Now, I'm told that they'll be shocked if he doesn't play next Sunday night when they return home to face the Browns. Right. But they can at least have some comfort that they can hold it together. The defense steps up like it did yesterday. They can hold it together and score enough points to win.
Yeah, it's and in that division, I don't know where we're going in that division. You know, do we have that figured out as well? Pittsburgh, and we'll talk about it, the game last night. I mean, I didn't think they had the offense to put up as many points as they did, yet they make this miraculous comeback and almost pull it off, but they don't. Cleveland, you know, injuries galore there. And Cincinnati, we'll see. They can be up and down. So as we talked about earlier, this is about health. It's about having your guys right by the end of the season. And Lamar Jackson, you mentioned it, and it's been more the sicknesses, like I said, obviously, except for the back, that have kept him out. But, you know, that's a guy you obviously need right come playoff time.
First one for me is the Thanks for Nothing award. You mentioned the Browns. Baker Mayfield, after a victory yesterday over the Detroit Lions, in which he was booed multiple times, left the field in, you know, kind of a little bit of a salty demeanor, stiffed the media. Mike, we just talked earlier about thou shalt not pick a fight with those who buy their ink by the truckload. Mayfield declined to talk to the media, and there was an effort by reporters to find out, well, was he getting medical treatment? Is that the reason? Because that can be an excuse for not talking. Apparently, he just decided, I'm not going to talk. And under league rules, that's a no-no, as we learned from Marshawn Lynch. I'm just here so I won't get fined. This is a delicate time for Baker Mayfield in Cleveland. He's got to be justifiably upset that he's out there with a harness that you can now see. He's got a knee injury. He's got a heel injury. He's doing everything he can to be available to play, and these people aren't grateful, and we still got to win. Well, it was ugly, and the Lions stink, and they shouldn't have won by only 3 points, and maybe some of the people were booing because they took the Browns and gave the points, but which is now, you know, legal in most jurisdictions. Yeah. So it's not just did you win, Baker, it's did you cover. Maybe that's why they weren't happy with the outcome. But this just feels like it's in a very fragile spot.
I think there's a frustration. Go ahead. Yeah. You know, I think there's a big frustration level with probably the Browns overall and certainly Baker Mayfield. This was that year, right? We talked about the deals that are going to go out to a Josh Allen, to a Lamar Jackson, to a Baker Mayfield. When and where were they going to happen? We know what happened, obviously, with Josh Allen. We know Lamar's representing himself, so we'll wait to see what happens there. And Baker, statistically, he's not having a good year, right? We're seeing bad passes. We're seeing overthrows. Now you got injuries to boot, which certainly can affect his play. But as I said all the time, even if you're injured, if you step on that field, you're saying I'm good enough to play, so you have to produce. But that doesn't mean there isn't frustration level going on. And he's highly frustrated with what's happening now. People are questioning him. So it's kind of easier to say, man, you got to go face the music of the media. And I'm saying he should. That's why, it's not like the immediacy. They're not running in. This isn't NASCAR after a crash where they get a microphone right in the guy's face and you get those heated confrontations. You do get a little time, not a ton, but you do get a little time in the locker room to kind of come down a little bit to at least get to the point where you have to realize, I need to go in there and talk. I need to go in there and face this because eventually you're going to have to. And then, one of the questions, why didn't you talk after the game? And then you're going to have to relive that whole thing. It doesn't go away. It doesn't. So the quicker you can just face that head on, and there is frustration, and deal with it, the better off I think you're going to be. A lot of people will throw arrows at the media for, let a guy be or this and that. Listen, the media has a job. You heard Pete Carroll come back in and say, I understand you guys have a job to do. It's not like you always love the questions that are asked, but they do have a job to do. And players have a responsibility and a rule that they have to talk. So they need to do that. And I'm sure as this starts to roll up and he's asked about it more, I'm sure in the future he'll realize it's better to just get that out of the way and talk about it right after the game. My second superlative is going to be, hey, picked a great time to have my best game, Taylor Heinicke, and what he did for Washington. We just started talking about Carolina last week, saying, did they get themselves back into the playoff picture? Cam Newton's coming back and starting. He's screaming on back. He does throw a couple of touchdowns and runs for another one and does the thing where he runs in the middle of the field, puts the ball down and does the Superman thing. But Heinicke picked this game to have his best, I think he had 141 rating or some number like that. Threw for 3 touchdowns and no interceptions, 16 of 22. Washington is looking for a quarterback. He's not going to be, I don't think, the future quarterback of that team. They're going to draft someone to try and make the future quarterback of that team. So all Taylor Heinicke can do, whether it's for Washington, continue for a little while longer, into next year, or another team, whatever it's going to be, all he can do is go out there and play and you audition, right? I think even he realizes, are they going to make me the quarterback full-time here for the next decade? I don't even think he's going to believe that, and that they'll try and get somebody else. But he's playing well enough to either, if he's not going to be there, try and be a starter for somebody else. That's kind of how it works. You try and take advantage of your opportunity, and good for him doing it. We've seen him do some good games. We've seen him fall off a little bit at times, and he picked a good one yesterday to have one heck of a game, statistically and rating-wise, his best game he's played.
And that had to mean even more to Ron Rivera, the coach of the Washington football team. Even though he downplayed the idea that he had a little extra something for the Panthers, they fired him 2 years ago. He went back in there looking to prove, I'm doing just fine. I'm doing better than fine. I'm doing better than you. And I'm going to get this victory. And now they've got 2 in a row. They've doubled their win total, and they're one of the many teams in the NFC. Everybody except the Lions is very much alive for a playoff berth in the NFC. Last one for me, because even the Seahawks are alive at 3-7, but this is the low watermark award. I'm going to finish where we started with the Seahawks, because the winds of change are going to be blowing very, very hard in Seattle. But here's what's fascinating about that organization. Paul Allen died in 2018. His sister Jody took over his vast holdings, and Vulcan Incorporated manages everything. I say that because, from time to time you'll have a football team that get passed from one family member to another, and maybe that person, takes the franchise and runs with it, takes it to new heights, or maybe that person's inept, Or maybe that person just isn't all that engaged. That's how Randy Lerner was in Cleveland after his father, Al, passed. He kind of took the team because what else am I going to do with it? He held it for a while, and then he sold it because he really wasn't into it. I don't know how into it Jody Allen is. And it's always going to be profitable. If you're looking at these businesses as, most businesses are viewed, are you making more money than you're costing? Yeah, the Seahawks are a great investment. They're a great property. Major changes don't need to be made. But if you care about the fate of the team, if you care about the pursuit of championships, it's not going well right now. And that's important to me, Mike, to understand who really is, if anyone, on the hot seat. Maybe no one is. Maybe they don't care. Maybe Pete Carroll's there as long as he wants to be there. But I'm telling you, I do a weekly spot on KJR every Wednesday night. And for the first time, when I did it last week, the hosts were, the knives were out on Pete Carroll. And it just kind of came out of the blue.
So I'll be quick. I know we have to go to break. When I first got to Philly, the owner there was Norman Brayman. Norman Brayman couldn't care less about the team. Norman Brayman owned car dealerships. He was either in South Florida or the south of France all the time. And by the time we got to the first year of free agency, when we had that nice group together in 1993, there were 11 of us that were free agents, including Reggie White. They didn't re-sign one person. Norman Brayman did not want to spend the money. So, yeah, when you have apathy out of ownership, it certainly can have an effect as it rolls downhill.
It'll be interesting to see then how that all plays out in Seattle. Will Russell Wilson stay? Will Pete Carroll stay? Will changes be made?
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.